The next case study is the Teacher Development Agency. I'll leave Dom to explain more about this. But I say this is an example of what we've christened small nudge campaigns, but using a collection of touch points to nudge people towards a final outcome. Dom, thank you.
Cool, thanks very much. I've got a question for you. How many of you have thought that sort of one day you think that actually it could be quite interesting to be a teacher? Hands up. Excellent. Right, how many are thinking of becoming a teacher in the next year? Hands up. That's a problem. So the problem that we faced back in 2009, 2010 is that, sorry, apologies for my voice as well, I've got a bit of a cold, so bear with me. But the problem we faced back in the day when there was a thing called the TDA, which I think no longer exists now, but we were trying to get more teachers, and essentially we'd done over 10 years worth of very effective advertising, lots of IPA effectiveness papers written on it, which had all shown what a brilliant job advertising had done in essentially making teaching a more palatable profession, a more inspirational profession. The problem is that we felt that actually that we didn't really have an attitude problem anymore. We had a behaviour problem, and that people weren't really taking. We had loads of people checking out, you know, sort of soft selling the TDA and becoming a teacher, but not really doing much about it. So what we and I kind of feel a little bit like a fraud in that the paper itself is probably more a media paper, or as much a media paper or a comms planning paper, or whatever you want to call it, is a creative paper, because I don't think in this instance what's really interesting about the paper, it wasn't the creative leap. Turn your talent to teaching, I don't think is really going to trouble any Cannes jury anytime soon. But what it did do really super effectively is create a platform and a creative platform for an ecosystem of communications, where we kind of nudged people through small nudges and medium-sized nudges to do what we wanted them to do. And I'll sort of show you a bit of stuff and how it all worked and how it fitted together. So there we go. Nice title, lovely, brilliant. Here's a TV ad.
Getting 13-year-olds to talk about human rights isn't easy. Sometimes you have to think on your feet.
Can I have that phone, please? Wicked phone. Hands up if you have a mobile. Do you realise how privileged you are?
Yeah.
What do you see?
Prisoner.
A prisoner, good. What could be happening?
Young children forced to work.
It makes me feel bad because, like, I take granted for the things that I've got.
I love your honesty, because you're not the only one. We all do.
Turn your talent to teaching. Visit teach.gov.uk.
Okay, so we did loads of those. We had about four telly ads, and they all showed sort of teachers teaching, and in particular, sort of in the sort of subjects we wanted more people to teach, like maths and physics and chemistry. They're harder to recruit for, and we wanted more professionals, and in particular career changers, and all of that. So that's fine, and we had a nice finance message, and we cut down to tens. But that's not really what the beef of a paper about. Because I think the beef of a paper is really about the other stuff, and this is sort of a small fraction of all the other ecosystem. We call it sort of the surrounding mix, which. Back in the day, is actually kind of quite innovative. So it's stuff like, so the bottom, well, the right-hand side thing was a sort of a social ad we ran on Facebook. This is going back to 2008, really old school. You know, updating your status is the highlight of your day. Register now for more information. It had a pre-populated registration form as well, etc., etc. But I think really the heart, if that's just how we summarised it, I guess. In the paper, because it's sometimes a visual can tell, if not 1,000 words, then at least 100 words, was this thing we called the pinball, really, the great TDA media nudge. And it was really just about how we were trying to design the ecosystem and the comms architecture, really, in such a way to keep people in play. What we knew is that people had the desire to become a teacher, but they weren't doing anything about it. So we just had to keep giving them the right stimulus at the right time, in the right format and channels and all the rest of it, to keep them keep them taking the next step, whatever that was. But our goal was very firmly focused on the application form. And the way we did that was by using lots of media partnerships, lots of social media. So we had a huge amount of teachers on social answering questions, telling what their journey was to other potential teachers. And it was really all about trying to create lots of emphasis on events as well. It's all about meeting people like yourself, basically, to give you the confidence and the inspiration to just take the next step forward, because you don't just, it's not like canning, when you're just sort of choosing to be a teacher, it's not like buying a can of baked beans. You don't just go and do it. It's a life-changing decision, especially if you're middle of a career and you've got kids and family, and it means you've got to change what you're going to do with a mortgage. What does it mean for your family? What does it mean for your bank manager, etc.? So people have hundreds of questions, and so it's a very long decision-making process. So this was our sort of dramatic oversimplification of a much more knotty thing, but at the heart of it was really decent comms planning, which were defining an ecosystem of environments, well, I guess what we call it now, user experience, but this is basically a user experience for sort of comms platform, and that's what the paper goes to talk about in a lot of detail. Just, I guess, one or two sound bites from it. So we increased the number of touch points, sort of paid for media touch points, from 7 to 15. As a way of trying to surround people. We increased the amount of digital, we sort of focused in on Mondays, and ultimately we got 46% more people to events where they could meet up sort of real people who were sort of real teachers and sort of get chatting to them. And this is the mad thing, and it is kind of mad. The return on marketing investment is since I get competitive with you now. It's £101 for every £1 spent. Which at the time was the most I think we'd ever seen in the IPA Effectiveness Awards. I don't know if that's still the case or not, I should know. But basically it got in 11,000 additional incremental teachers, which is, so, I think it was sort of paid for itself and then some, was very effective. And then the COI was scrapped, which was a bit of a shame. But there we go, that's a different story. Different topic.
Dom, thank you very much.